So, how is it possible that the world's most poorest and the most vulnerable, who live in the most poorest cities and the most poorest parts of the world, are the ones that suffer the most from the whole climate impact and also unsustainable environments? So, this is about inequalities. This is way got to do with justice, equity, systems, right? Justice, inequalities, and inequity systems. So let's look at it from this way. This discussion of climate impact and also the disasters that happen within cities and also in towns in various countries. These have been way back, dated way back about 500 years back. So currently, the world's most vulnerable population, communities, and people, they live in the most deplorable and the most impacted communities. And interestingly, these are the people that have created or they have contributed little to the climate and also to environmental disasters. Talk about carbon emissions, industrial pollutions. These are very much in a very diverse part when it comes to these vulnerable communities that are very much impacted by poor environment and poor surroundings. So this is got to do with SDG Goal 10, reduced inequality, and also connecting it to Goal 11, which is sustainable communities and cities. Well, so without the organizations or without communities being equipped and resilient with funding and also technology to combat environmental and also social issues as a result of deplorable communities and also environments, they cannot be able to tackle environmental as well as social impact heads on. So, without tackling the environmental as well as the social inequalities by giving them resources, knowledge, education, funding, and know how, they cannot be able to address the inequalities. And this is why there is a perpetuation of inequalities from generation to generation to generation. So, reduced inequality has a very much direct correlation with sustainable cities, right? So when cities are equipped, when members of communities and cities are equipped, they are able to now build together a very strong and resilient community and cities. What makes some of the things that makes a community or city is quite resilient? We're talking about good transport system, we are talking about greeneries, we are talking about infrastructure, we are talking about environmental and as well as social issues. For instance, what are the trade-offs of industries? Communities can be very much separated from industrial cities and also the industrial hub. That is why it's very important that communities are very much separated from industrial grounds. So because the industrial grounds, the factories and the industries emit carbon, they emit fuel, they emit all sorts of smoke, polluting the air for the inhabitants. So when these communities are carefully constructed and designed in such a way that it is habitable for people to live, this is what the communities and also the towns become very resilient. So it has a very much direct correlation. So it is very important that communities and also city dwellers, civil engineers that construct and design cities are able to make a very constructive decision that, okay, yes, we are going to design the cities in such a way that they are taken away from industrial plants. And in fact, even if it comes to a point that industrial plants are being sited within some communities and towns, there should be a compensation. And the compensation comes to the fact that the people will have the finances and the funding and also be equipped with the knowledge to be able to build and also to construct resilient cities. As a matter of fact, currently, according to research, cities and communities only cover about 30 only cover about 3% of the whole Earth's surface, right? But yet still emit about 70% of carbon emissions, and it's all because of the industrialization, and everything has all been jammed together in these spaces. So when communities that are full of vulnerable people are equipped with finances, with the knowledge, the skills to be able to now construct and redesign their environments, are planting trees and also making sure that there are cool air to be breathed, and making the proper demarcations, like reducing carbon, maybe doing more of a in-person or physical activities to support and also to help clean air in these areas. All these all come together bit by bit to ensure that there is a sustainable lifestyle amongst these people. So without addressing inequalities, it is very, very hard, or can be very, very difficult and challenging to address or to attain sustainable and resilient communities and cities. Actually, this is one of the first reports that I made some time ago, about 2000 and about 4 years or 5 years ago, about how the slums are able to build their own, how people in slums are able to generate and also build their own sustainable cities, and also how they are connected to communities, and having a regenerative development project going on and on. One last point is that about 1.1 billion people live in the slums and ghettos. Yeah, so we're talking about the zongos, the slums, the shanty towns and all that. Yes, about 1.1 billion people live in these areas. So yeah, so thank you for this time, and I am also very grateful that you take time to listen and also to save, to share, and follow this page also. Happy to know what you think. These are just a brushing over of some of the goals that we are discussing. So, hey though.